if there is actually content that a person cannot find elsewhere, so kind of exclusive content, that also keeps kind of motivating to go there and learn. Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah. So it's about this balance between being serious about the content, but also having some fun out there. Text not too long, visuals. Design content. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have things around the content. So if the content is engaging and interesting, and if it's exclusive, we have things around the how. So it's more the design, the videos, the good balance between fun and seriousness. We have a bit on so that there is enough diversity, or seeing that you make progress in learning. It's also interesting to see now how close it is actually to non-online learning, to in-person learning, right? I think we will have this question for any kind of learning. There would be many quite similar things there as well, right?
I just keep wondering if it's really the same, or is it something that we kind of still speak from being very familiar with the face-to-face environment, you know? So it's kind of that we expect the same things. I bet, I mean, some things are the same and we are the same people. So if you like things visual, then you probably would want to like them in residential or face-to-face or online. But I think some of it is maybe more also the force of habit, I wonder.
Okay, so thanks for the initial contributions. We will go on, and here I will give word to Snežana a little bit to make certain distinction between different types of learning, and then it's about also a bit of terminology that perhaps might be new for some of you, because the way the course is designed, the way it goes, makes influence on engagement, but also and kind of expectation towards how much people are expected to be engaged and involved in course activities.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
thanks, Laimonas.
Yeah,
we were thinking whether to include this or not. So it's not, and finally we decided to do it, not so we would have a little theoretical input, but really, as Laimonas said, it does have a difference on when we speak about engagement, what type of course it is, and then what we can expect. I'm thinking that maybe we could have made a little PowerPoint here, but okay, that's for the next time. So I try to make it short. And also to acknowledge that probably a lot of you know this already. So this is just kind of a short summary. So the first thing is to make a distinction is whether the course is synchronous or asynchronous. What does that mean? It's that if it's synchronous, that means that the content that is being delivered or facilitated means that everyone needs to be online at the same time. So, for example, a webinar. So this, what we are doing right now, is synchronous online learning. We are all together here. There is some content being delivered and facilitated. There's a conversation going on, and that's it. Doesn't need to be video per se or a video conferencing. It can be let's all meet in the discussion groups at the same time in the forum. But still, everyone needs to be there. And then there is asynchronous, where you basically, it's the opposite. No, you put the content is there, and the people then take it when they need it or want it, or they plan their week. So I think when Michelle was announcing the online course, for example, before, when we thought that we would still meet in Oulu, it said it will take you, I don't know, maybe, 2 hours per day. And then it's up to you to choose which 2 hours you take for this. But you don't have to be there at whatever time it is now, 12:34. Both, of course, have their advantages, disadvantages. Maybe we talk about it later, where we talk about tips or something from our experience and so on. But just to know that Synchronous is generally more difficult to organize because of people's availabilities, but at the same time might have a little, like a bigger impact on engagement. Yeah. So, and of course, wherever you have two poles, then you have the combination. So, of course, you can make your online learning as a combination of synchronous and asynchronous activities. Yeah. So this is one, and thank you, Laimonas, for putting it in the chat. Then there are also, and some things are overlapping between these divisions. You have paced and self-paced courses. Yeah, paced means that it's the facilitator or the course creator that decides when certain content will be delivered. That doesn't mean that it needs to be synchronous, that you need to be there at the same time. But let's say every week on Monday, the certain unit is being revealed. And I think for those who were there on Wednesday, when I shared experiences from Yokomo or from the MOOC on European Solidarity Core, there we, for example, had, it was mostly self-paced, yeah, for example, in the MOOC, that we delivered all the units, and then it was up to people which unit they want to tackle, at which point, in which order, and so on, yeah. But if it's paced, that means that, you know, this week we do this. On Wednesday, we are going to have a webinar. On Thursday, we are going to have discussion groups. You have a deadline on Saturday to deliver group work, and so on. Yeah. Again, that also has an impact on engagement. And how do we see the engagement? And then also similar, but still another division is whether the course is facilitated or it's standalone. Yeah. So what we are having right now, it's very much a very, very facilitated course. Yeah, so you have facilitators all the time with video conferencing, also checking whether you are in your small groups, taking reflections and so on. Standalone is if you basically create a course and that's it. Yeah, so facilitation is maybe this more background facilitation that you influence it with the design, with the content, with the questions that you asked and so on, but it's really, there are no facilitation there. Again, a combination, of course, it's possible, is that you can have a facilitated course for some time, and then you have it standalone, like what we did, for example, with the MOOC on European Solidarity Core. There is a phase where the course is facilitated, and then there is a phase where content is still there, but the facilitators are not engaging so much. Yeah. So this is yet another division. These are kind of something to know when you think about which courses you will take. Yeah, and all of them more or less are possible with MOOCs, but also smaller courses, although, you know, they would all have their preferences. Yeah, so with blended courses or smaller online courses, you will mostly have more involvement from the facilitators, and in MOOCs less, but the combinations are possible. Yeah.
So I can answer Ada's, I think I answered already Christine's question on what's the difference between asynchronous courses and self-paced courses. And Ada is asking, yeah, what did you address during the facilitated phase before making it available as a standalone? Usually the courses are either, you know, facilitated or totally self-paced. So I think still it's good to have certain level of facilitation, or rather I would say moderation, especially when there are forums open for contributions. It's sometimes just helping people to understand what is actually the question, or sometimes it's reminding people the so-called netiquette, so etiquette online, like the basic rules that you have to be, you know, specific. You shouldn't be impolite to others, or you should add hyperlinks instead of putting huge links. So there are certain netiquette aspects that sometimes requires to facilitators to intervene and remind people about it, even though this is sometimes often written on the top of discussion, for example, or it's written in the introductory session. But if you make self-paced course, often people decide wherever they want to start, and then they would skip some intros and then move on directly into something, and then they would miss few basics how to communicate online. So I think sometimes it's good to have maybe at the beginning, like setting up the rules, setting up the conditions, explaining people technical part, and then it goes on. Yeah. So, and then usually when it's like fully facilitated course, then we as facilitators, we are online, we are answering people's questions, we sometimes promoting the discussion. sometimes even opening a new discussion topic if we see something is emerging in one place. Yeah. Also, when it comes to synchronous activities like webinars, then of course facilitator role is quite clear there. So yeah, I'm talking more about massive open online courses, which often are based on asynchronous activities, meaning that you can take course content at any time of the day, in a way. You are not asked to join a webinar together. You're not asked to really be somewhere online at the same time. And it's done because MOOCs deal with huge numbers of people, yeah, hundreds and thousands and sometimes few thousand people. So when doing any synchronous activities, usually people feel, oh, I cannot make it, and then people drop out. Yeah, so it's a tricky thing to have too many synchronous activities, because people feel like, oh, there is a pressure to be there, but I cannot make it. Yeah, so actually one of the interesting things in terms of reducing dropout rates for the MOOCs, for the courses which involve many people, is sometimes not to over-engage people. Meaning that the more we give assignments, the more we give deadlines. Some people cannot make it for the deadline because of their work, studies, and so on, and then they drop out. Yeah. Or if I say, oh, there is a webinar, and people feel like I cannot make it, and then they drop out again. So it's good to have this kind of balance between the activities and so on. When we first launched MOOC on Canvas Network, people were giving us advices there, like try not to have too many discussions, like give people chance to really relax and consume the content, and then time to discuss. But if there is discussion after each video, it just could be too tiring for people to contribute a lot. So in that sense, it's good to have a balance of not really over engaging in a way. What we are also here, you said, well, I'm engaging if the topic is for me, if it's interesting for me. I think one of the tips is to have very clear topic and very clearly communicate what is the course about. If people come there and it's something different than they expected, they drop out and they don't engage. Yeah. Another thing you touched upon already is design and quality of the content. And very often, actually, half of the whole course budget, or sometimes more, goes on the design production and video production, because it's expensive, but actually in this way we can deliver quite a quality content that can be also reused outside of the course environment. So I think having good dynamics, having good quality, good music, and good production, it keeps people going and keeps people enjoying the content and willing to actually look for more. Now there are new tools appearing. For example, you watch the video and then you can stop at a certain moment and then you can leave your questions or you can leave reactions. Also, it's possible to add the video and then actually define when the video should stop, and there is a question for reflection. So actually, when we talk about the video content, there are more and more tools appearing that allow to present video not purely as one piece, but also to have mode for reflection. And this is, I think, very interesting how this is all developing. Another thing that we mentioned also meaningful tasks. So actually having tasks that make sense, that really leads people to learn something new. Yeah, and as people said, maybe not something super challenging, but still something doable that people can really do, even though known people are in very diverse environments and contexts. You know, like in MOOCs, we would have someone, you know, just next door, maybe from the same country I am from, but then we would have like plenty of people from the Caribbean, from I don't know, from somewhere South Asia and so on. So it's really very, very global. And then we need to see how to make a task that it's kind of universal and doable. Another aspect is to possibility to give chance to get feedback from an expert or few other learners. And those who maybe tried few MOOCs, you saw there's possibility to like make assignment, submit the assignment, and then the assignment is given to some learners, and then these learners can give feedback based on the guidelines. So often that keeps people really interested and excited, like, oh, what other people think about me. Sometimes I do it in a simple way. I say, just post your work that you did, and then inviting others to feedback. And then I, as facilitator, I take this role to feedback first, and then other people can add. Being responsive very quickly to people's questions. If it's facilitated course, then the quicker the better, especially when it comes to technical, the technical aspects of the course. I think regular announcements, we clearly, because we can see all the statistics in the course, that announcements remind people that something is happening there. And then whenever there is an announcement, we always see a peak in participation. So people come back to the course, they do a few things, and maybe again, they forget that they are in this course. So regular announcements and some interesting data, some interesting statistics, maybe some quotations, it helps people to be engaged and to remember that they actually taking part in the course. And another aspect was mentioned to establish patterns. Sometimes it may sound strange, but people need some kind of safety net. People don't want that every day they open new content and it looks different colors, very different exercises each time. So you can find quite a lot in terms of some literature and advice that it's good when there are certain patterns. Yeah. So for example, we would have a module, and then each module would have, let's say, 2 videos, couple of exercises, 1 discussion, and the quiz at the end, let's say. Yeah. And then if the course content is somehow similar, then it's good to keep some pattern, what people may expect. Yeah. It's not necessarily the same exercises, but some kind of pattern is good. Yeah. Talking about recognition, if one module is ending with the information about what badge you can get from this module, it's good to have this integrated in every module. Yeah. Or not to have one module with 5 discussions and then another module only 1 discussion. So more seeing how you can really have it as a system in your course, and not to have totally wild and crazy modules differing a lot from each other. So these are the few things that I came up with, I think, reflecting my previous experience for facilitating MOOCs.